Hello and welcome to Xcom with James. Today we're going to be covering XCOM 2 War of the Chosen Legend difficulty, going over the opening mission and the opening admin before you get your first guerrilla ops. We're going to be talking about how to start, what moves you want to make in the Avenger initially, what you want to spend your credits on, etc, etc, etc. There's a mod list down in the description. There is only one gameplay affecting mod which will make all starting craftable utility items, i.e. medkits, smoke bombs, flashbang grenades, infinite and costless. I generally recommend playing the game with this mod. It just makes a lot more sense, goes back to, well, honestly it goes back to probably the way XCOM should work. And it also just means that you won't accidentally send your person with a medkit off on a covert ops and then have to spend supplies on the new one. There's none of that sort of faff. Ultimately, it just saves a lot of pointless faffing about. So let's get into the settings you're going to want to go with. So you're going to want to set yourself to Legend, obviously. Tutorial will not be enabled. Naturally speaking, we're not going to play the tutorial. You're going to want to put reduce beginner voiceover because I'll be telling you how to do it anyway. Again, tutorial off, and then you want to go to your advanced view. Now, I recommend either reload. If you don't like using these, that's fine. What I recommend generally doing though is enabling Skirmisher, even if it's by virtue of just restarting your game until you get that Skirmisher ally on the first mission. You'll always get a faction hero, unless you're playing the tutorial. You'll always have a faction hero on the first mission. And I generally recommend the Skirmisher, just because you need every advantage you can get. You're going to have 3 rookies and a faction hero. And if you get a Reaper, whilst they're normally an amazing boon, you're dealing with approximately 10 enemies with one unit that is either just a weaker rookie, if it reveals itself, and has no attacking potential if it stays as a scout once it's used its claymore. Templars, again, similarly, whilst they are a great unit, they're a bit of a vulnerability when you've only got 4 total soldiers, because they're very prone to being left in exposed positions under a tremendous amount of fire. They don't have parry yet, so they're either going to die very quickly or they're going to have to be played very, very conservatively, which really is not something you want to have to deal with in the first mission. So yeah, take that. Leave the rest of this alone. No point making this any harder. Things like this really do. Things like this really just add unnecessary fiddling, and things like this are. Obviously these just add unnecessary difficulty, and this kind of nullifies the main threat of the game. So we'll get ourselves started. Enable Iron Man, obviously. Then, yep, just leave these options the way they begin. You don't really want Lost and Found. It does give you 2 faction heroes, but then you have to do a mandatory quest to go and get your Skirmisher back. So all you have to start with is a Reaper, and the quest is a little bit irritating. Just skip through the cutscenes. Everyone's seen her talking about Advent a million fucking times. So that's fine, we don't need to watch it. Virgilio, if you are, unlike me, not recording a YouTube series that you don't think will be very successful, your computer will very likely load the first mission substantially quicker. I'm probably going to cut this loading screen. If I didn't, feel free to point that out in the comment section. Here we go. Central will do his little bit of talking. I love that we weren't immediately through the loading screen. That was the loading screen for just this really nice, detailed helicopter interior. Everything else, just nah, dumb. Don't worry. Don't fucking stress about it, mate. Again, the game will lag horribly, as per is the usual. There we go. We've got Beast. Oh dear. Yep, we've just got a statue to blow up. Occasionally you'll get the speaker's podium, likely if it's the first time you started a game on Commander. If that happens, it doesn't make much of a difference. So, you're going to want to... Generally, I don't like to make my approach to the top level over there if I can help it, just because that's concentrated around the objective, so it's very likely that there'll be a substantial number of enemy troops. So, pick the way you want to go up. I'm going to go over here. Out the way, there's a reasonable bank of cover, and I can see there's something here. So there's this thing. But that's fine. We'll work it out as we go. Pick your closest up rookie. And just start to sort of move. You know, generally only move into an area you have a fairly good chunk of vision over. You can use a skirmisher like this as a sort of cheap scout, really. And yeah, I think we'll probably go around the long way just to avoid this tower, because we don't really have the capability to hack it yet, and we won't be getting that sort of ability till really much later in the game. So yeah, just start to get your troops moved up into position. Don't worry about using grapples cooldown. It's only 3. It's not not amazingly useful in combat. It is useful, but it's not the best thing in the world in combat. So just don't worry yourself about it. It's much better to use it to get a good entry position and get more vision of the map. And if you're being as cautious as you should be this early on with your concealment, then you're not going to get dropped out of concealment without expecting it. Unless you get particularly unlucky, but honestly, these things do happen. But yeah, just make your way up. Here we are. We've found our first pack. It's looking like 3 Advent Troopers, which hopefully suggests good things. It'll just be a standard 6/6 pack. You can get a thing with, there's 2 packs of these, 1 pack of these with a commander, and a sectoid just on his own. I got that last time I booted up a Legend difficulty game. And honestly, I would advise either restarting if you're not just trying your best, and then just restarting if it goes awry, because being stacked up against those kind of odds is always going to end pretty badly if you haven't built up a substantial amount of skill. Oh, here we go. There's the sectoid. Okay. So now we're encountering our first major strategy problem. We are dealing with obviously these guys. These are probably the pack we want to open up fighting. But we're going to, by necessity, end up pulling this pack. So what that generally means is we want to save 2 actions for that skirmisher, who can't do anything with their grapple. So they're out of position, out of options, basically is their situation. Which is going to mean that we're going to want to create a safe zone for them to exist in. So, fortunately, it's a skirmisher. Now, that wasn't an accident, putting the skirmisher in the difficult position. Because skirmishers, in terms of all of the units, are the best equipped to deal with being at a disadvantage. So now we need to start looking at our opening play. Like I say, we want to create a safe zone for this skirmisher to come back into. We've got fairly good knowledge of what's on the map. We're unlikely to be surprised, certainly less so than going over and fighting those guys. And also, if we can make the sectoid move at least once, it's not going to be able to do some psychic fuckery and then attack us on the same turn. The trooper will go for cover, most likely this bit here, regardless of what happens, and then take a shot. But again, he'll be at very substantial range. There's no officer to give him death mark on any of the units, so we should be relatively safe. Everyone will be in high cover if we're able to clear out the troopers. On the subject of clearing out the troopers, I generally advise just starting with a simple frag grenade. Not overwatched, because rookies already have very low chance to hit in terms of their rifle accuracy, and as a result, it's generally a poor play to gamble on that when it's already at decreased odds. Okay, so unfortunately, this guy has gotten himself flanked, so we can pop him over there, but that's fine. Skirmisher can take up a good position of hard cover, and then we'll look at what we need to do with him in a moment. It's looking like that's possibly a good shot. Do we have a good use for justice? It seems pointless to use justice on what's such a likely hit. So let's look at what the rest of the squad can do. She can take a rather shite shot, or she can not, honestly. But there's nothing else in range this turn. Overwatch, as I've said before, really bad on rookies just because of that. It's only 10 to 20%, I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but that change in percentage is so damaging when it's a case of your percentage to hit flanked. Like, look at this. This is a squaddie, this isn't even a rookie. Flanked, reasonably short range, 68% chance to hit. Like, you know, aim is 68%. Like, what are you going to do with that, really? Don't put them on Overwatch unless you've really got no other compelling option. Because whilst Overwatch traps are great, it's just not worth gambling against that bad a hit odds. Okay, so the sectoid is just going for... oh, he's going for a raise zombie, which is honestly not the worst because it's reanimated it right next to a skirmisher that will be able to shoot it twice and possibly kill it. Now Advent Trooper is making his way along, left himself open to a flank and has missed his shot entirely. Okay, so that was a really successful turn for us overall. So now we need to start asking ourselves about dealing with this sectoid. Generally, best advice dealing with a fairly high threat enemy at this early on is going to be the sectoid, spoilers when you're doing this, is just blow out its cover with one unit and then the other two rookies can take their flanking shots and see what they can do. Critical hit, that's a good start. And then we need to see how he does. Hopefully you'll get lucky enough to land both. We didn't in this circumstance, which is honestly fine. These things happen. Now it's about making a reasonable retreat. We're going to go for this one here because we're going to have to reposition ultimately, and all we're trying to do is get out of the way of that trooper. Then we're going to move up to this piece of cover here. Take the shot. That was very unfortunate. But nevertheless, these things happen. The sectoid is making an interesting play by repositioning to a position it doesn't have a flank, and is going for a mind control attempt. The unit has panicked but has not been successfully mind controlled. They can get a successful mind control on occasion, but it's not the worst thing in the world. And they have landed a unbelievably lucky shot and killed one of the enemies. Goodness me. Well, I made a bit of a misjudgment there, as should have now become evident to anyone. As should have now become rather evident, I made a little bit of a misjudgment. And a trooper's died. So, it's becoming immediately apparent that getting rid of this zombie, at the very least avoiding getting hit by it, is quite the priority. The issue is how to go about doing it. We can get ourselves additional range. I think ultimately it would be well served though, just taking 2 shots against it. Or we would be if this unit could have vision of it. I think it's because this particular piece of hard cover is blocking it, which is rather annoying, but whatever. Yep, we were lucky enough to get the 2 shots, which honestly wasn't overly surprising. Got one more promoted, I think. Certainly in lower difficulties, but I'm not entirely sure on this one. Sectoid double moved, which was inexplicable. So we'll just have the shot. We'll just have that guy reload, take the shot. There we are. Sectoid dead. We lost 1 soldier, which is very unfortunate. Fortunately enough, though, everyone else was unharmed, including this guy. He's actually doing fine, given that he had a panic. I think he's got a slightly higher will stat than everybody else. Unfortunately, we're not going to get to that loot, which is a bit of a shame, but it's just how the card rolls. Again, as much as we don't want to have lost that soldier, it is reasonably instructive. This is a brutally hard difficulty. You're going to lose soldiers, you're going to have to take calculated risks, and we took... Well, there wasn't as much a calculated risk as it was me getting my fucking measurements wrong, but you do have to lose soldiers occasionally. It happens. Sometimes the only way to complete the mission objective is to make a suicide play. And as much as the game itself tells you that's not the thing to do, it's very much the thing to do. And here we've got the final pack coming into it. That was really the only turn that you want to use Overwatch when you're gradually moving up, hoping to discover it. Any turn that you don't, use your second time unit on Overwatch, because they'll come in to pass, and, well, we got 1 shot on, honestly. Yeah, the other one missed. But, honestly, that's good enough, given the circumstances, to land even 1 hit doing that. No, that's not what I wanted. Can you please stop doing that? So now we need to look at what we want to do. We've got an option to justice this one guy, which looks like it's a guaranteed kill. He's already in good position, so honestly, not looking like a shabby option. Now, unlike previously, we can't stack up on this double cover here, because those things carry grenades. So we need to find more useful cover for him, being cognizant of the fact he has to reload this turn. Now, the difficulty we're going to have is she is not able to go over here. Yep, she can't make it there without setting herself on fire, which is very annoying. And she's got no really substantial shot, and she's in quite an easy position to flank, and she can't use the hard cover there. So she is really quite irritating in our position, so we're going to move her to that. And we're going to stick her on Overwatch because she has no shot. This guy is going to launch a grenade, deal some damage to the Advent officer and break his cover, forcing him to move at least once next turn, which he probably would have done anyway. And this guy is going to reload as his first action, and he's going to take the shot on the trooper. Because, again, we're rolling low-value units that have low chances to hit, so don't stress that it was a low chance to hit. We did kill 2 units, which is good, and then the Overwatch killed the 3rd one. That was very successful, very lucky. What we'd have wanted to do is just sort of the same sort of plays. We've still got 1 grenade up, so we'd have wanted to move towards either flanking him or bombing him, and then just taking him out with everyone else that's left. Yeah. So that was very successful. That was, well, surprisingly successful, honestly. So just make your way over to the mission objective again. There are no enemy targets on the map. There will be reinforcements. So just stick everyone else on Overwatch. Smart Overwatch, incidentally. One of the mods, link in the description. Go pick it up. It's on the workshop. Very easy to get. It's just a very good utility that will allow you to either do all or others. And it will basically mean that everyone will, if they've got 2 actions, check if they need to reload. If they do, they'll reload, unless they've got a free reload and they've got some in the mag, then they won't do it. And then they'll Overwatch. It's very well programmed. I've never run into any problems with it at all. And I've been using it for, I've used it probably for 50 hours of gameplay, and which is then coming up to 20, 30, 40 missions sometimes. So. It's a very good mod. You want it generally. It'll be in the mod list in the description. Go and just look it up. Honestly, just Google and then log in through Steam through that. We lost 1 soldier. Rating good. Honestly, I'm going to go and say that that's generally a very good success. You could probably have done better because you'll have the hindsight to handle a zombie much better than I did, because you'll have hopefully watched this and become more familiar with their ranges. But just generally stuff like that. Again, don't worry about losing low-level troops this early on. Plenty of training opportunities. My dog is huffing in his sleep, if you can hear that in the background. I sincerely hope you can't, but yeah, he's huffing away. Fucking dog. Again, we just make our way through. Very long loading screen. I'm just playing with something on the desk because I've got nothing to do. Then we're going to have to start dealing with our admin, and you're going to see how we're going to deal with it. It's the simplest admin in the game. Hello there, news reporter woman. You got a very, very brief bit of dialogue. I don't know if you were playing under the top. I can't hear my game's audio with this particular setup. Cutscene. In we come. Blah blah blah. Oh, he's dead. Him and his silly hat. Speaking of, I've got Children of Anarchy set rather high, as you can imagine. So, this guy got promoted into a ranger. Always go through, when you're in this screen, right at the start, when people are promoting from rookies, go through promote, and then do promote, and then do bonds, because you're going to start to establish what sort of units you're going to want to take for the final missions, and what sort of units you aren't. So, I generally, for the final missions, chosen assaults, the big missions where you take your best troopers, I don't generally bring grenadiers. So I'm unlikely, but I do generally bring faction heroes. So, with the exception of Templars. So what you want to be looking at is, I don't want this grenadier to bond with this skirmisher. Fortunately, yeah, it looks like they don't like each other. In fact, he doesn't like anyone. Probably had a reasonably good collab with this guy, but he's fucking dead, so, Yep, again, very high, 10, highest possible. So, this is now a bond, and here we go. 6 combined kills. Man, they were doing all the work that mission. Yep, just take a little gaudy photo. Tygan, I haven't even met you yet, shut the fuck up. Sassing me, motherfucker. Yeah, I like Tygan, he's honestly one of my favourite commanders, one of my favourite characters after dealing with Vala. A reasonably good path to the power coil. So, the first thing you want to do is set your first building in motion, and you want a resistance ring. Simple as. You've got no engineer this early, you've got literally no supplies. Get to work on that. Then you want to go to research. You want to ignore everything he's got to say, and you want to go with modular weapons, because that way you can start to use your upgrades as you get them slowly fading in. If you don't know, you get those from the loot drops, along with the sort of covert actions. other things. Visit the Barn Memorial. Look at this guy. 1 mission, 1 kill. Look at this fucking terrible facial hair. Honestly, not overall a particularly substantial loss to the thing. I would have had 13 soldiers to spawn with if he wouldn't have died. You know what? I probably avoided a fair amount of bad luck with him dying. Then you want to... It wants you to go and have a chat with engineering. You don't. There's nothing buildable if you're using the mod I'm using. Otherwise, build yourself a flashbang grenade and a medkit if you can afford both. Otherwise, prioritise medkit. Then go up to the bridge. Try to avoid your nose betraying you midway through it, like mine has.
Welcome.
And John will talk at you. Blah blah blah. Shush, John. And then you need to make the decision between, because we've got skirmishers. Thank you, Beatos. Because we've got skirmishers, build faster or rookies. I would recommend build faster. I would recommend build faster unless it's things like Illyrium, loot, soldier, or an engineer. Anything other than that, and then if it's a scientist, it's up to you really, but I would just recommend build faster, because getting that resistance ring up and running is super useful. And generally, you want to work if you've got any wounds. It doesn't make a difference where you are. Okay, you've got your first piece of research done, and then it's up to you what you go for, really. 36 days. Now, this is the first quirk of Legend, other than, obviously, the increased amount of packs on missions. Yeah, this is pretty fucking crazy. Research takes substantially longer, and the punishment for not having the appropriate level of scientists or resources is even more damning. Let's see, Alien Biotech's got another day on it than what it normally has. This is over doubled. Now these will start to curve down at a more aggressive rate. Experimental weapons are also much higher. I generally then advise get on with quest research, just because modular, because we're ages away from plated armor, and the vests, we're not going to be using them on my particular strategy. If you like the vests, obviously go for that. We're not in a rush to get the quests done. Then just keep going, and here you've got your first guerrilla ops. So that's where we're going to leave it for now. We're going to review the target. It's always an engineer, it's always an easy mission, and there's no sit rep. I think you can get sit reps. Most often you'll get the lost if you get a sit rep this early on, but generally don't worry about it. Just go to confirm, and we're going to go over what squad you want to be bringing. You want to be bringing as many promoted troops as you've got, no matter what they do. If you've got a grenadier, he wants the flashbang grenade in his off grenade slot. Doesn't matter, just get into the habit, because if you have him spec'd for tactical rigging, I believe it is later on. No, it isn't. I don't know. There's something later on that doubles the amount of grenades this grenade slot provides. So you don't want to put the flashbang in here. You want to put the offensive grenade in here. If you've got a specialist, you want to give them the medkit. If you don't, you want to give it to the rookie, because you'd never want to tie down a skirmisher or a ranger with something like a medkit when they don't have 2 slots available. And then yeah, you're generally going to want launch mission. Incidentally, if this looks different to, if my version of this looks different to yours, don't worry about it. It's just because I'm using a mod. Again, it will be in the description. And yeah, if you've got any upgrades, we don't. You want to apply them. You can customize weapons. You can customize troops. You can bring along anything. If you've got an unbonded soldier, you should have a look at who he likes, like this. Wow. Okay, this guy's an asshole. He doesn't like anyone. He doesn't like Molly. He hates Molly Walker the least. But honestly, if he's that low, he's a grenadier. You get fucking loads of grenadiers. They're not particularly useful, and any bonded development is going to be slow. So we're going to use him till we get someone else promoted as grenadier that isn't a fucking misery guts, or we get a new recruit that he likes. Which seems unlikely. It's very odd that you have a troop spawn like that. You're very unlikely to encounter it. It would appear that it's random. I assume that it distributed points across a sort of scale, but it would appear that it's just random as to their stats on each one, and that generally leads to a different thing. There's a floating drill over there. Shen's model's possibly despawned. But that's fine. But yeah, so that's everything you really need to know for the first setup, and then you want to get on with this mission. Next episode we'll be covering this mission and the admin that happens after that. So thank you very much for watching and joining me along through this rambling explanation, and I hope you find it helpful. And good luck with any any Legend playthroughs, because this is hard as nails. It will come through trial and error, and it will be brutally difficult at times. But keep your chin up. There's a lot of aliens to put bullets in. Thank you very much, and goodbye.